Years after she walked away, a millionaire CEO breaks down when a single father and his twin girls unexpectedly resurface. Before we dive in, drop one word that matches how you feel right now. The Tesla's cool leather pressed into Samantha Cross's back as she stared at the seven-figure contract resting on her knees. At 32, she could dominate any boardroom with the same relentless grit that had carried her from nothing to the summit. Yet stalled on Fifth Avenue, something tugged her attention away from the neat columns of numbers. Through the tinted glass, Central Park sprawled like a calm, green lake in a city of stone. Her eyes, trained to find patterns in noise, caught a flicker of movement by a bench that stirred an old recognition. A man sat there, rocking a stroller with one hand while two identical blonde girls chased pigeons in the shifting sun. Samantha forgot to breathe. David Miller. Even at a distance, she knew the set of his shoulders and the unconscious rake of fingers through dark hair whenever he sank into thought. 5 years since she'd seen him. 5 years since she'd left their Brooklyn place without a note. Left his ring on the dresser, left 2 6-month-old babies whose needs had felt bigger than anything she could give. The traffic's moving, ma'am, her driver said, but the words never reached her. Emma and Sophie. She whispered their names like a lost prayer. The twins ran back to David. They had to be 5 now. One clung to his chest, giggling. The other tugged at his jacket, chirping about some tiny triumph only a child would elevate to legend. Samantha watched his face go gentle as he listened. That smile, unguarded and kind, she'd nearly taught herself to forget. He hoisted one girl to his shoulders and patted the bench for the other. The scene was so easy and bright, so domestic it hurt, as if she were peeking at a life she'd never learned to inhabit. The Tesla crept forward, and still Samantha couldn't look away. For 5 years she'd sworn she'd done the right thing. She'd decided he was better off, that 2 girls would thrive with bedtime stories instead of quarterly targets. But seeing them, this whole happy trio she'd abandoned, cracked something in her at last. Hot tears came without warning. When had she last cried? When had she felt anything but the cold satisfaction of closing another deal? "Are you all right, Miss Cross?" the driver asked, concern reflected in the mirror. She dabbed at her cheeks, but her polished reflection couldn't hide the jolt of fear in her eyes. "Turn around," she murmured. "Please, turn back to the park." By the time they looped the block, the bench was empty. David and the girls had melted into the city's current, as if she'd imagined them. She stared at the vacant bench for 20 long minutes before telling the driver to head home. As towers smeared by like brushstrokes, a single thought solidified. The immaculate world she'd built was about to come apart. The woman who'd built an empire by never glancing back had collided with her past. And for the first time in 5 years, she ached to go home. That night, she paced the penthouse, sleepless, the city lights glittering like faraway stars she'd never thought to wish on. By morning, she'd chosen with the same iron certainty she used on acquisitions. "I want the best," she told Marcus Webb, Manhattan's most discreet private investigator perched behind her mahogany desk. "Price is irrelevant." Webb, a silver-haired ex-FBI agent, studied her. "Who am I finding, Miss Cross?" "David Miller, Brooklyn. Twin daughters, Emma and Sophie. 5. Her voice was steady, but her fingertips stuttered on the desk. "I need everything: address, phone, job, schedule, finances, all of it." 2 days later, he returned with a thick manila file, the weight of a life. Her hands shook as she opened it. The first photo stole her breath. David looked older, leaner. Fine lines webbed the corners of his eyes. His clothes, clean, pressed, carried the wear of someone stretching every dollar. A note. Elementary school teacher. A teacher, she thought. His salary just covered a small 2-bedroom in Park Slope. But the photos with Emma and Sophie were what broke her. David at a small table guiding homework. The 3 of them eating ice cream on stoop steps, Bedtime in a room with mismatched furniture and crayon-bright walls. He raised them alone, Webb said evenly. Never remarried, barely dates. Those girls are his whole world neighbors, she asked. They say he's a remarkable dad. Patient, steady, always puts them first. Samantha studied a picture of David pushing both girls on swings, their faces lit with joy. This was the life she'd left, the sweetness she'd told herself she didn't need. There's more, Webb added, voice tightening. Substantial medical bills, frequent appointments, specialists, meds. The costs are crushing him. Medical bills, her head snapped up. For the girls? No? The file listed David's address, phone, teaching schedule, the morning route to school, everything she'd need to step back into their orbit if she could find courage. That night, her living room, lined with awards and glossy magazine covers, felt cheap and flimsy. She held David's number like a lifeline to a world she'd abandoned, but never stopped loving. Tomorrow, she told herself, I'll make the call that changes everything. She stared at her phone for 3 hours before dialing. Her hands shook so badly she misdialed twice, each error a hairline fracture in her resolve. On the 4th ring, he answered, voice deeper, roughened by years of single fatherhood and battles she could barely imagine. Hello? One word, and her nerve nearly gave. 5 empty years yawned between them, a canyon she'd carved. David, she whispered, it's Samantha. Silence. She heard his breathing shift, felt the shock travel down the line from Brooklyn to Manhattan. Samantha, he said, her name breaking in his mouth. After 5 years, you just call. David, please. Do you understand what you did to us? To me? His pain cut like glass. You vanished. No note, no reason. I came home and you were gone. The girls were 6 months old, screaming for hours, and their mother was just gone. Tears streamed as she clenched the phone, as if gripping harder could bridge the distance she'd made. I know I hurt you. There's no excuse. You're right. You don't have one. His voice frayed. Do you know how many nights I walked the floor with 2 crying babies wondering if you were dead? How many times they asked why their friends have moms and they don't? I saw you, she blurted. In the park, yesterday. You were watching us. His anger thinned to rawness. How long? Just a moment. I was stuck in traffic. I glanced over. You were on the bench. They're beautiful, David. They look happy. They are. We built a good life without you. The truth stung. I made a mistake, she pushed on. The worst of my life. I was 27 and terrified. 2 infants. A newborn company. I thought what? He snapped. That you were better off without me. Yes, she said, voice splintering, and I was wrong about all of it. Silence stretched until she feared he'd hung up. From his end, she heard little voices. Emma and Sophie. What do you want, Samantha? He asked at last. I want to see them, she swallowed. I want a chance to mend this. Mend? He laughed without humor. You don't ghost your family for 5 years and stroll back like nothing happened. They're my daughters. I raised them. I've been there for everything. They're my daughters, too. No. His tone went cold. You forfeited that the day you left. Please, she said, pride gone. Let me see them. Let me explain. Explain what? That their mother's a self-absorbed climber who walked out? The words were a blade. She shut her eyes and took the cut she'd earned. One meeting, she whispered. If you want me gone after that, I'll go. But give me one chance. When he spoke again, his voice was softer. One meeting, public place, no girls. Show me you've changed. Prove you won't harm them again. A small cafe, 5th and 23rd, tomorrow, 2 p.m. Don't be late. And lose the corporate armor. This isn't a deal. The line went dead, leaving her with 5 lost years and a single thin chance at redemption. The cafe thrummed with Manhattan noise, but Samantha sat still in the corner, eyes on her watch. 2 o'clock slipped past. At 2:15, doubt crept in. At 2:20, he arrived. He looked worse than Webb's photos. The man she'd almost married was a shadow, 20 pounds lighter, a faint tremor in his left hand. He found her instantly, jaw tight as he approached. He dropped into the chair opposite, eyes mixing anger with a dangerous flicker of hope. "You haven't changed," he said quietly. "That's not praise. You look—" She stopped herself before awful or exhausted slipped out. 5 years raising kids alone will do that? His tone was flat. "What do you want?" She'd rehearsed all night and still lost the script. "I want to know my daughters, your daughters." He leaned back. "Emma asks why she's the only kid without a mom. Sophie pretends not to care, but she cuts photos of mothers from magazines. That's the crater you left." Each word landed hard, and she kept her voice steady. "We were young. I was scared. I was terrified too," he said, "but I stayed." "You're right," she whispered. "I'm sorry." He didn't soften. "What changed? Why now? I saw you in the park. I saw their faces. I saw how you loved them, and I finally understood what I threw away." "So it's about you," he said. "Your guilt." "No." She leaned in. "It's about them. They deserve to know their mother loves them." "Love?" His laugh was bitter. "People don't abandon those they love." She wiped her eyes. "I don't deserve it, but I'm asking. One chance to show I'm different." He studied her a long time, the air thick. The father in him wrestled the man he'd been. "They're fragile," he said at last. "Emma especially. If you hurt them, if you vanish again, you'll break them." "I won't," she said. "I swear." Another long pause. Saturday, Central Park, same bench, noon. Fear flickered beneath his anger. "I introduce you as an old friend. Nothing else. If I think this is bad for them, it ends permanently." He stood, then glanced back. "Don't make me regret this. They've had enough hurt." Saturday dawned clear. Autumn light washed the park. Samantha tried on 4 outfits, finally settling on jeans and a plain sweater, costume for a woman who usually wore armor. She saw them first. David walking with a slow, careful gait. 2 blonde whirlwinds streaking toward the playground. Even at a distance, their differences showed. One bold and bright, one quieter, orbiting close to David. "Emma, Sophie, over here," he called, voice even. They ran back, and Samantha's breath hitched. They were beautiful. Sunlit hair, bright eyes, his smile, her face in outline. "Girls, this is Samantha," David said carefully. "She's an old friend." The bolder twin, likely Sophie, beamed with a gap-toothed grin. "Hi, are you Daddy's girlfriend?" "Sophie," David warned, cheeks flushing. Samantha laughed. Real laughter for the first time in years. "No, sweetie, your daddy and I were friends long ago." Emma lingered, studying Samantha with clear, serious eyes. "You look familiar," she said. Samantha's heart jumped. "Do I?" "Emma thinks everyone looks familiar," Sophie said, tugging Samantha's sleeve. "She says the mailman looks like our neighbor. Will you push us on the swings? I'd love to." The next hour was simple joy. Sophie narrated everything: kindergarten dramas, a friend named Madison, the hamster they couldn't have. Emma was reserved until Samantha spotted her on the monkey bars and offered a steady hand. "You're strong," Emma said, "hanging like a tiny koala." "Most grown-ups get tired." "I did gymnastics when I was your age," Samantha said, surprised by the memory floating back. "Can you do a cartwheel?" A minute later, she was flipping on the grass while both girls squealed. David watched from the bench, expression unreadable. "Daddy, can Samantha come for dinner?" Sophie blurted. The question hung like a test. David met Samantha's eyes, protector warring with something softer. "Maybe another time," he said. "But we never have visitors," Emma said, cutting to the truth of their small world. "We'll see," David answered, tone final. When it was time to go, Sophie hugged Samantha's waist like it was nothing. "Hope we see you soon." Emma gave a small, deliberate wave. Walking away, something new grew in Samantha, a fierce, rising love for 2 near strangers who felt like hers. Behind them, Sophie's voice floated back. "Daddy, why did you look sad when you saw the pretty lady?" The question followed Samantha to her door. 3 weeks later, David agreed to another visit. This time, the Bronx Zoo. Samantha arrived early, nerves pounding the way they had before high-stakes pitches. This mattered more than all of them. She spotted them near the penguins. Emma's nose was flat to the glass. Sophie bounced beside David. He looked especially pale, knuckles white on the railing. "Samantha," Sophie ran over. "The penguins are throwing a party." Emma trailed behind with a shy smile. "We've been here an hour. Daddy had to sit a lot." A dart of fear hit Samantha, but David averted his eyes. "Lions next?" she suggested. "Yes." Sophie grabbed her hand without thinking. "But we have to walk slow." "Daddy gets tired easy." The words hit like a blow. Emma nodded with the solemn tone of a child who has overheard too much. "The doctor says Daddy's muscles don't work like other people's. He has to take big pills that taste yucky." "Emma," David warned gently. She barreled on, honest as only a 6-year-old. "The pills cost lots of money. I heard Daddy on the phone say the bank account is sad." Sophie nodded seriously. "That's why we can't get a hamster and why we eat mac and cheese a lot." The ground tilted. David was sick, very sick, and paying for it while raising 2 kids alone. Guilt surged, heavier than ever. "Can we see the monkeys now?" Sophie asked, oblivious to the bomb she'd dropped. "Of course," Samantha said, voice steady by force. They walked slower to match David's careful steps. She saw the tremor, the way he leaned on signs, the tight winces he tried to hide. How hadn't she noticed at the cafe? How long had he been battling alone? In the primate house, the girls pressed to the glass, laughing. David sagged onto a bench. She sat beside him. "What is it?" she asked softly. "Medically?" His jaw set. "None of your business. They're my daughters, and they're watching their dad struggle. It is my business." "Your daughters?" Even tired, his voice cut. "Since when?" "Since the day they were born," she said. "Whether or not I had the courage to claim them." "What's the diagnosis?" He was silent so long she thought he wouldn't answer. "Progressive muscular dystrophy. Adult onset." The words were barely more than air. "They think maybe 10 decent years before—" He broke off. Her breath snagged. "How long have you known?" 2 years. Started with weakness, shakes. I thought it was stress." He gave a dry smile. "Stress doesn't eat your muscles. Treatment, clinical trial, gene therapy, new meds. Insurance won't cover experimental anything, and on a teacher's salary." He lifted a hand in helplessness. "How much?" she asked. "How much is survival?" Defeat flickered in his eyes. 15,000 a month. More if I get into certain drug programs. 15,000. She'd spent more than that on a single client dinner. The answer was blindingly obvious, dizzying in its simplicity. "Daddy," Sophie called, "come see. This monkey looks like Mr. Peterson." David pushed himself up, forcing a smile. Samantha watched him move, each step deliberate. On the subway ride home, she made another decision, one that would upend everything again. For 3 nights after the zoo, sleep wouldn't come. She had built a fortune on calculated risks. Nothing had prepared her for this. She found him after school on Tuesday, parents clustered in easy groups. David sat apart, exhausted. "We need to talk," she said. He looked up, surprised. "About treatment," she continued. "About 15 grand a month that's draining you while you fight for your life." "Lower your voice," he hissed. "Not here." "Then where?" she shot back. "When do you let go of pride long enough to let me help?" The doors burst open. Children poured out. Emma and Sophie spotted them and beamed. "Samantha." "Daddy, why didn't you tell us she was coming?" "Surprise," Samantha said lightly. "I was hoping to walk with you and talk to your dad." 6 blocks to their apartment told her more than any dossier. The pre-war building had seen better days. Shame pricked. Her choices had helped put them here. Inside, David sent the girls to their room. "I know what you're going to say," he began. "And the answer's no. You haven't heard the offer." "I don't need to. You want to fix a problem with money. That's your move. I won't be your charity case. I won't owe you." "This isn't charity," she said, fighting to keep her voice level. "It's making sure Emma and Sophie have their father. Don't," his voice went steel, "don't use my kids to corner me." "Our kids," she said. "I'm not cornering you. I'm paying because it's right." "The right thing," he said, "would have been staying. The right thing would have been being here when the doctor said the word, when I stared at the ceiling at 3 a.m., wondering what happens to them if I die." She took the hit and kept going. "I can't rewrite the past, but I can help write what comes next. Let me pay. And then what? You vanish when it gets hard again? I'm not going anywhere." "You've said that," he murmured. "You said it when you accepted my proposal the day they were born." He shook his head. "Your promises don't weigh much. Only truth remained. I was selfish. I was afraid. I didn't know how to be a mother. But seeing you with them, grasping what I almost lost," her voice shook. "I'm not that woman anymore. Prove it." "How?" "Stay." He held her gaze. "Not just for zoo days and playground hours. Stay and raise them. Be their mother, not their patron." The challenge hung there, clear as glass. To accept meant rebuilding her life around two girls who barely knew her. "If I do," she said carefully, "if I commit to being their mother, then you let me cover treatment. No pride fights. We do this together." He listened. From the bedroom, Emma's steady voice drifted as she read to Sophie, a reminder of nights he'd been too spent for stories, of how gently they'd learned to move around his fatigue. "You'd walk away from your company?" he asked. "I'll restructure, delegate, work from home. If I have to choose, I choose them." "Why should I trust you?" "Don't," she said. "Let me earn it. Let me earn them. And let me give you the time to watch them graduate, fall in love, roll their eyes at us when they're teenagers." Sophie laughed in the other room. After a long beat, he nodded. "One chance. Hurt them again, and it ends forever. I understand." "Treatment starts next week," he said, "and you start being their mother every day, not just when it suits you." Stepping back into the street, Samantha knew she'd made the biggest commitment of her life, not to a merger, but to two little girls who deserved solid ground. The emergency board meeting was set for 6 a.m. Faces around the gleaming table swung between alarm and disbelief. In 15 years, she'd grown cross industries from a boutique consultancy to a multi-billion-dollar force. She'd never called a meeting like this. Effective immediately, she said from the head of the table she'd ruled for a decade, "I'm stepping back from daily ops." The room erupted. Richard Steinberg reacted like she'd declared insolvency. "Samantha, the Morrison deal closes next week, with you." "I'm not leaving," she replied. "I'm changing my role." "For how long?" asked CFO Maria Santos. "Indefinitely." Silence rolled like a wave. The woman who worked 18-hour days and never took more than a 3-day break was stepping aside. "Is it your health?" Richard asked gently. "You could say that," she answered, "but not mine." By lunch, the news had leaked. By afternoon, blogs whispered hostile takeover. Investors lit up her phone. She ignored them. Instead, she stood in David's living room while he packed a bag for his first round of experimental therapy. The girls sat quietly, understanding the gravity in the air. 3 days, David told them. "Samantha will be here." "Will the medicine make you better?" Emma asked. "That's the plan," he said, "and Samantha will make pancakes." Sophie added, "Like you do." "We'll figure pancakes out," Samantha said, even though she'd never made them once. When he left for the hospital, reality hit. She was alone with 2 5-year-olds she barely knew, in an apartment the size of her closet, no staff, no manual. By dinner, everything was chaos. She ordered Thai, forgetting kid palates. Sophie took 1 bite of pad Thai and gagged theatrically. "Too spicy. Daddy makes mac and cheese." I don't know how, Samantha admitted. From the box, Emma said calmly. Blue box, orange powder. The next hours were humbling. Burnt mac and cheese scraped from a pot. Bath time turning into a minor flood. Bedtime voices she couldn't quite do. Emma cried for her dad. Sophie woke screaming and ended up on Samantha's makeshift couch bed. At midnight, with both girls finally asleep, Samantha saw 47 missed calls and hundreds of emails. She powered the phone down. For the first time in 15 years, something outranked work. Day 3 without David was a trial. Emma stood with one sock on, hair a small storm. Sophie, still in pajamas, pinched marshmallows from cereal. We're going to be late, Samantha said, checking her watch with the old boardroom twitch. Daddy braids my hair, Emma said, holding out a brush like a sacred relic. I don't know how, Samantha confessed. You can try, Emma offered. 20 minutes and multiple false starts later, Emma had a passable ponytail. Sophie dressed herself in striped leggings, a polka dot dress, and rain boots on a sunny day. Your choice? Samantha asked. Daddy says wear what makes me happy, Sophie said, spinning. The walk to school was orchestrated disorder. Emma fretted about lunch. Sophie stopped to examine every sidewalk crack. Parents smiled in solidarity. You must be the family friend, said Mrs. Chen, Emma's teacher. So glad someone's helping while David has treatment. I'm Samantha, she told her, then knelt to Emma. Daddy's getting strong medicine. He'll be back tomorrow. Doctors are taking excellent care. Will you pick us up? Emma asked. I'll be here at 3, Samantha promised, feeling that promise way more than any contract she'd ever signed. At pickup, Sophie was a finger paint rainbow. Emma looked rattled. Madison asked why I don't have a real mom, she said on the walk home. I said my mom went away. She said that means she didn't love me enough. A knot rose in Samantha's chest. She crouched on the sidewalk. Sometimes grown-ups make very bad mistakes, she said carefully. It doesn't mean they don't love you. It might mean they didn't know how to love right. Did my real mom make a mistake? Emma asked. The truth was a maze, but Samantha wouldn't lie. Yes, she said, a very big one. But she's trying very hard to fix it. How do you know? Because, Samantha said, voice thick, she told me so. That evening, in David's chair at the table, Samantha realized she was learning more than parenting. She was learning what she'd missed. Not just 5 years, but the quiet miracle of being needed. Sophie fell asleep on her lap. Emma asked for a monster check. Each small win outshone any cover story. The emergency call hit at 2 a.m., 2 weeks into treatment. David's voice was thin with pain. I need you to bring the girls to Mount Sinai. Complications. Under the harsh hospital lights, he looked fragile, cocooned in monitors. Daddy looks scary, Sophie whispered, clutching Samantha's leg. He's going to be okay, Samantha said, though her own voice trembled. Dr. Martinez pulled her aside. Experimental therapies can cause severe inflammation. We'll observe for 48 hours, maybe longer. Is he in danger? Not at the moment. Are you family? The question landed cold. Legally, no. But watching Emma smooth his hair, Sophie grip his hand, she knew family can be chosen. I'm their mother, she said softly. That first night taught her how a life can shrink and still hold oceans of love. David drifted in and out. The girls wouldn't leave. Samantha shoved 3 hard chairs together for makeshift beds, her coat a blanket. I'm scared, Emma whispered near midnight. Me too, Samantha said, wrapping them close. We're staying right here. We're not leaving. Emma searched her face. Daddy said you went away before. Will you go if he gets sicker? The question pierced everything. No, Samantha said. Never again. I promise. By morning, the 3 of them slept in a heap. David woke, saw them, and smiled through pain. You stayed? He murmured. Of course, she said. My girls don't usually sleep for strangers. Samantha looked at the twins, peaceful and trusting. I'm not a stranger anymore. Night 2, Sophie spiked a mild fever. Emma turned stubborn over hospital food. David unraveled with worry. This is what I feared, he said. They shouldn't see me like this. They're not living with uncertainty, Samantha said, tucking a blanket. They're living with love. What if this doesn't work? What if I get worse? Then we face it. Together, she said, all of us. 72 hours later, they went home altered. The twins no longer saw Samantha as temporary. They saw the woman who stayed when it was hardest. They were beginning to see a mother. 3 months on, their mornings found a rhythm. Pancakes on weekends, pick up at 3, bedtime stories. Yet Emma, ever watchful, kept testing the edges. One quiet Sunday, while David napped post-treatment, Samantha sorted art supplies with the girls. Emma lifted a framed photo, one of the few from before Samantha left. This is you, Emma said, not asking. Yes, you look younger. You're holding us when we were babies. Really? Sophie zoomed in. Emma pointed. Same smile. The moment Samantha had dreaded had arrived. She sat on the floor, heart thudding. There's something I need to tell you. David appeared in the doorway, leaning there, ready to step in but leaving her the room she'd earned. You're our real mommy, Emma asked. Yes, Samantha said, I am. Sophie's eyes went wide. Where were you? Why weren't you with us? Samantha searched for honesty that wouldn't wreck them. When you were babies, I was very scared, she said. Being a mommy felt too big. I made a terrible choice. You left us? Emma's voice was small. I did. It was wrong. The worst thing I've ever done. But you came back, Sophie said, already closing the distance. I came back because fear isn't a reason to leave people you love, Samantha said. I came back to do this right. Emma wasn't satisfied. What if you get scared again? What if you leave? Behind them, Samantha could feel David hold his breath. This was the real trial, not convincing him, but earning 2 little hearts that knew absence. You're right to worry, Samantha said. I broke your trust before you could name it, but I promise I will never leave again. Even when I'm afraid, even when it's hard, I will be here. How do we know? Emma asked, practical as always. Samantha dodged the easy adult promise. Because I love you more than anything, she said, more than my career, more than comfort. I love you enough to stay when staying is scary. Sophie hurled herself into her arms. Emma studied her, then whispered, Can I call you Mommy? I would love that more than anything, Samantha said, tears falling as Emma finally leaned in. In the doorway, David wiped his eyes. The family he'd held together alone was knitting whole. Sophie embraced the word Mommy with delight. Emma tried it carefully, like tasting something new. Trust came in tiny stitches. Emma called for Samantha after a bad dream. Sophie brought a broken toy to Mommy. Each small moment eclipsed any corporate trophy. The true pivot came on a rainy Tuesday. David was at treatment. Homework was going south. Emma shoved her math sheet away. I can't do it. You can, Samantha said, scooting closer. We'll do it together. Daddy's better at math. Daddy's better at many things, Samantha smiled, but I'm here now. 20 minutes later, Emma dotted the last answer. I did it, Mommy, she breathed, startled by the ease of it. Samantha only smiled. You did. I'm so proud. That night, Samantha launched a new rule. Pancakes for dinner whenever someone does something hard. The twins giggled as she flipped lopsided discs. David, with a little color in his cheeks, laughed. These are terrible, Sophie declared, delighted. They're perfect, Emma said, eyes meeting Samantha's. Later, tucking them into the bunk beds David built, Emma clasped her hand. Mommy, are you glad you came back? Every day, Samantha said, meaning it more each time. Good, because we need you. On the couch, medical bills blanketed the table. The experimental therapy was working. Strength returned in tiny, noticeable ways. The costs were crushing. I've set up remote work, Samantha said. I can be here for pickups, sick days, everything. You don't have to give up your career, David said. I'm not giving up anything, she answered. I'm choosing. He looked at her, truly looked, and the last barricade in him fell. They love you, he said. I love them, she replied. And us? he asked. The question they'd sidestepped for months. She took his hand, calloused from years of doing it all. We're a family, she said. Messy, unorthodox, ours. You sure? He asked again 6 months later, as she straightened his tie. Treatment had painted a little life back into him, though fatigue lingered. They're my parents, Samantha said. They should meet their granddaughters. Dinner at her childhood home in Westchester was meticulously planned. Margaret and James Cross had done well in real estate. Comfortable, modest by their daughter's standards. They were stunned by her stepping back. Wary at the word family said so firmly. Emma and Sophie in their best clothes sat in back, excited and nervous. Will they like us? Sophie asked as the gates opened. They'll adore you, Samantha said. Quiet flutter in her own stomach. Margaret answered the door with a hostess's polished smile that faltered at the sight of the twins. Oh my, she whispered, kneeling. You're even lovelier than the photos. James came behind her, sternness melting as Emma shyly offered a drawing. This is for you, Grandpa. At 72, he'd never expected to hear that word. Formality dissolved into cheerful chaos. Sophie held court with stories. Emma watched, then unfolded. Daddy was very sick, Sophie announced over dessert, but Mommy came back and helped. Margaret's eyes found Samantha's across the table. Hearing it from a child carried different weight. Mommy came back? James asked gently. She was lost for a while, Emma explained with 6-year-old wisdom. But then she found us. Later, while the girls played in the garden where Samantha once did, Margaret pulled her aside. I've never seen you like this, she said softly. You look at peace. I am, Samantha said, for the first time. And David? We're figuring it out. James joined them with David. The men had found common ground, school talk, the girls' slow recovery. He's a good man, James said simply, and those girls are extraordinary. They get that from him, Samantha said, watching David push both girls on the swing. No, Margaret murmured. There's a spark they get from you. You've always been strong. Driving home, Sophie asleep on David's shoulder and Emma leaning into Samantha, Emma whispered, I like having grandparents. They like having you, Samantha said, realizing she'd given them a kind of family she hadn't known they needed. 6 months later, Central Park blazed gold and red as the twins' 6th birthday neared, their first as a whole family. Samantha attacked the plan like a merger. The Rainbow Room booked, celebrity entertainer, a cake that cost more than rent. It's too much, David said gently, skimming a guest list of socialites and 6-year-olds. It's their first real party with both of us, she said. I want perfect for them or for you, he asked. The sting was in its accuracy. Emma shrank as the plans ballooned. Even Sophie asked why they couldn't just have cake at home. 3 days before the party, Emma climbed into Samantha's lap at story time. Mommy, can I tell you a secret? Always. I don't want a big party. I just want you and Daddy and Sophie and maybe Grandma, Grandpa, maybe a picnic where you first saw us. Samantha's throat tightened. No rainbow room? No magician? No ponies? Emma shook her head, serious. I just want us. That night, Samantha made a flurry of calls, canceling everything. David found her among abandoned plans. What changed? Emma wants a picnic. I planned my fantasy, not their day. He sat, arms circling her. The old Samantha wouldn't have pivoted. The old Samantha wasn't a mom. Saturday came clear and bright. They spread blankets near the bench where it started. Margaret and James brought thoughtful gifts. Art sets for Emma, blocks for Sophie, books to read together. It was wonderfully simple. Hide and seek, feeding ducks, a lopsided homemade chocolate cake that tasted like love. Make a wish, Samantha said as 6 candles flickered. The twins traded a look and blew in unison. What did you wish? Margaret asked. Can't tell, Sophie said solemnly, eyes sparkling. Later, Emma tugged Samantha's sleeve. I can tell you mine because it already came true, she whispered. I wished we could be a real family forever. Samantha knelt. We are, she said, even though you went away? Especially because I came back, Samantha said, Some families are born, some choose. We did both. Sophie barreled into them. Best birthday ever. On the walk home, they passed the bench. Samantha paused, picturing the woman in a Tesla watching a life from far away. Penny for your thoughts? David asked. Second chances, she said. How the best gifts are the ones we nearly lose. Emma squeezed her hand. Like you coming back? Like I came back, Samantha said. The park glowed as they headed home. Imperfect, complicated, complete. A year later, Saturday lights streamed into their new Brooklyn apartment, still the borough, but bigger. Emma and Sophie had their own rooms. The kitchen finally held all four at once. The soundtrack was family. David humming off key as he flipped pancakes, the girls debating movies, the coffee machine chuffing. Samantha stood in the doorway in pajamas, stunned by the ordinary magic of a morning like this. She'd discovered wonder in the everyday. Sticky fingers, cereal confetti, the particular tiredness of loving people more than sleep. Mommy, tell Sophie we already watched Frozen, Emma called. We can watch it again, Samantha said. It's Saturday. Marathon rules. David caught her eye and smiled. The same quiet smile that had once undone her, now deepened by all they'd survived. His latest checkup brought real hope. The therapy, fully funded and consistent, had not only halted progression, it had given some strength back. Board meeting later? He asked, brandishing the spatula. Video call from here. 2 hours max. She'd rebuilt her company around their lives. Cross industries thrived under her strategic hand. But she finally knew the difference between being indispensable and being absent. Can we bake cookies while you work? Sophie asked, with sprinkles. As long as we don't burn down the kitchen, Samantha said, and squeals followed. The afternoon clicked into its gentle groove. From the bedroom office, she heard David and the girls squeal over an art project. Bursts of laughter, soft directions, the warm mess of a family with nothing to prove. Numbers look strong, Richard said through the laptop. Profits could climb if you came back full time. I'm exactly where I belong, Samantha said, watching Emma hold up a drawing of 4 stick figures beneath a bright yellow sun. My priorities have changed. That night, tucking them in, Emma's room neat with labeled markers, Sophie's a riot of color and plush, Sophie asked, Mommy, are you happy you came back? Every day, Samantha said, and meant it. Even when we're naughty? Especially then, she smiled. That's when you need me most. In Emma's room, the older twin by 12 minutes, a point she relished, came a different question. Do you miss your old life before us? Samantha sat on the bed thinking. Emma always got honesty. I miss feeling important in boardrooms, she said, but I'd rather be important to you and Sophie. I miss my face in magazines, but I prefer your art on our fridge. I miss making decisions that touch thousands, but I'd rather make pancakes that make 2 little girls grin. Emma considered, then nodded. So, you're happy? I'm whole, Samantha said, not the same thing. Later, on the couch beside David, the late news murmuring, mergers, markets, wins, losses, she felt no pull toward that world. Regrets? He asked, catching her quiet. Only that it took so long to learn what matters, she said, but we learned it together. In the mirror before bed, she found a different woman than the one who cried in a Tesla 15 months earlier. New lines from laughter and worry, hands fluent in braids and band-aids, a woman who had found her way home. Tomorrow would bring its own knots, school runs, work calls, the small trades of a shared life. But tonight, listening to the soft rhythm of her family breathing, Samantha Cross knew exactly who she was. Not Manhattan's most formidable executive, but a mother who came back and who would never leave again.